Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Chazal tell us, the Rambam says it very clearly. The Rambam says that when hard times befall Klal Yisrael, so it's a warning for tshuva. It's a warning that Klal Yisrael need to stand up and they need to do something. They need to accomplish something, and that's tshuva. And Chazal will masakin specifically various days in the calendar as a tainis, as a fast, in order to achieve this tshuva. In fact, the Chofetz Chaim, when he brings it in the Mishnah Berurah and Hilchos Tainis, tells us that so many people, unfortunately, miss the boat. They grab the toffel and they miss the ikka. And that, of course, a person has to fast. That's takonas Chazal. We have to fast. That's the takona. That's what we have to do. But that's the toffel. The fast is a springboard to hopefully try and get a person to do tshuva, because these are times of tshuva specifically. Now, I want to mention specifically this year something more than what we normally mention about Hilchos Tainis, Hilchos fasting. I want to mention the idea of the days that we're holding by at this moment of time. If you look at Megillas Tainis brings that there are 3 days of mourning, 3 days of basically Avelis in Teves, and that is the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th of Teves. That's yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes. Let's try to understand what happened yesterday, what's today, and what's tomorrow. In fact, the Torah brings down, the Torah said it's right to fast all of these 3 days. And there were people that actually fasted the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th, Ches, Tes, and Yud. We don't nowadays. The Torah brings down that the meaning is not. We do only on Yud. That's tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem. But Al Kaponim, we have to understand what happened on those days. Like, why? Why would I even fast? What's the Havamina? So let's go through them one by one. Let's understand the days that we're dealing with. Let's go through yesterday. Let's start with yesterday. We'll move on to today. Then Be'ez Hashem tomorrow. On the 8th, on Ches Teves, so the Torah, as Chazal tell us, Gemara Megillah Daf Tes, the Torah was translated into Greek. And the Beginner's Tainis tells us that when the Torah was translated into Greek, the whole world plunged into darkness for 3 days. For 3 days there was darkness into the world. Chazal tell us, again you can look this up, in Masechta Sofrim Perek Aleph, Chazal tell us that this event of the Torah being translated into Greek was as harmful as the Egel Hazav, an Aveira that was still paying for Ad Hayoim Hazeh. And the question we have to ask for is why. We're all familiar with the Gemara and Megillah, where Ptolemy, this Greek king, took 72 Gedolei Yisrael, put them in separate compartments and separate rooms, and asked them to translate the Torah, which a nace happened, the nace goloi, mamish, an unbelievable nace, they all translated it in exactly the same way, which is amazing. If imagine I give you a piece of shtickle Torah, a Tosfos, a Gemara, whatever it may be, said translate this, you give it to 2-3 people, you'll get 6 different opinions, right? That's how it is. But the unbelievable miracle, 72 Gedolei Yisrael, they translated it in exactly the same way. Now, why is it so chomer? What's so bad about translating the Torah into Greek? What's so bad? The world plunged into darkness for 3 days because they translated the Torah into Greek. Mabaya? What's so bad? So I'll give you a few reasons. Reason number one is a very simple reason. Is if you wanted to learn the Torah or understand what the Torah said, you had to go to Klal Yisrael. You had to go to the Yidden, and they would explain it in a diplomatic way that wouldn't harm anyone. But all of a sudden now that you translated it into Greek, it's available for anyone. Anyone can now look at the Torah, anyone can just try to find ways to do all sorts of things, and that was a very, very dangerous thing for that to happen. And just like the Egel Hazav was a replacement, so too the translation of the Torah was a replacement. The Aris Dvash, by the way, goes through Ba'amkas al Pi Kabbalah. This set the stage for the Chorban Beis HaMikdash. That's why it's so chaber, because it's the start of the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, as I state in the Aris Dvash. There's a Moedek Chasam Sofer in the Droshes and on Teves. The Chasam Sofer says a Moedek is like this. Says the Chasam Sofer, Yavon, Greek, as we know, we talk about this, of course, about Hanukkah time, is all about the external. It was all about the physical appearance. It was about the external appearance. That's what Greek stood for. That's what they were all about. And therefore, they wanted to do something very important for them. They wanted to uproot the Torah Shebal Peh. We know Rabbi Kiva, Darshan, everything. We know that if you look at the Torah Shebechsav, you can see the Torah Shebal Peh. Everything's in the Torah Shebechsav. But if you translate it, all of a sudden you have a translation. You've lost the Pnimius HaTorah. You've lost the depth of the Torah because you can no longer make droshes. You can no longer go into the depths underneath the surface of anything because you have a translation. The reason why it was so chomo when they translated the Torah into Greek, that the world plunged into darkness for 3 days, is because they removed the ability of Torah Shebal Peh. And that is a very, very dangerous thing. And that's why many people fasted on Ches Teves. We don't, but yesterday was a day of sadness for Klal Yisrael. Today is the 9th of Teves, right? We have Tes Teves. What is today? So the Torah brings down a shita that we don't know why we fast. That's what he brought down. He says we don't know why. Some say that Avada the Torah knew, but he didn't want to reveal the answer. Some want to say that Yoshka, whatever you want to say, was born today. He was a Soinei Yisrael. He was a Mavaza Talmidei Chachomim. And even though the Goyim Taina 25th of December, it's a mistake. And he was born, according to many, today, which was a very bad day for Torah, for Klal Yisrael, and for Talmidei Chachomim. But if you look and you concentrate on the slichas that we're going to say tomorrow, so in the slichas it brings down quite clearly that today, Tes is the yahrzeit of Ezra HaSofer. Ezra HaSofer is one of the Gedolei Hador. Chazal tell us he was so choshev that the Torah was roy to come through him. That's how choshev he was. The Medrash says that if Ezra was alive at the same time of Aaron HaKohen, he would have been greater than Aaron HaKohen. This is Ezra HaSofer, who died today. When Ezra came, the Gemara tells us in Baba Kama, when he came to Eretz Yisrael, he saw that Klal Yisrael were a little bit shvach with some of the mitzvahs, some of the halachas, some of the Torah things. So therefore he was mechazik many of the halachas, and he made various takonas Ezra, we know from the Gemara Baba Kama, in various places. And because of that, he very much was mechazik Torah Shebal Peh, Torah Shebechsav, and therefore that's why when he died today, we lost that connection, which is why some people used to fast, which is why it's a sad day for Klal Yisrael. And of course, tomorrow on Yud, Asara B'Teves, is the day that the siege actually happened, and that was the beginning of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Before we move on to some of the halachas, so there's a famous idea that I have to mention. I think we say it every year, but it's a choshev azach. The Torah brings an Avudram. The Avudram tells us that if Asara B'Teves would fall on Shabbos Kodesh, we would fast on Shabbos. Now it happens to be that our calendar doesn't allow it, for whatever reason, so it will never fall on a Shabbos Kodesh, but that's irrelevant. The point is, there is only one other fast that we know, that if it will fall on Shabbos, we fast on Shabbos Kodesh, and that's Yom Kippur. If Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos, Tisha B'Av is one of the most chomer fasts we have throughout the year. If Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbos, we push it to Sunday. This year, for example, Tainis Esther, for example, in Chutz La'aretz, is going to be Be'etzem on Shabbos, we bring it earlier. The Kaponim, we never fast on Shabbos unless it's Yom Kippur. Zuk the Avudram, if Asara B'Teves would fall on Shabbos, we would fast. That makes it one of the most chomer ones, maybe even more chomer than Tisha B'Av. More chomer than Tisha B'Av. Why? What does that mean? Now again, the calendar maybe, practically speaking, won't allow it to fall on Shabbos. But the point is that it sounds like it's so chomer, and the question is why? What's so chomer about Asara B'Teves? So we can talk very simply. If you look in the Pasuk in Divrei Yomim, it says very clearly, Be'etzem hayoyim hazeh. It has to be on that day. Okay, so we have a pasuk that said it has to be on that day. So maybe if it falls on Shabbos, we have to fast on that day. That I get. But there's another answer, right? And the other answer is, if you look at the other Tanesim, if you look at the other fasts, nothing happens specifically on that day. Maybe it was the beginning, maybe it was the end, maybe it was the Hascholah in some way, but it wasn't the day itself. For example, that happened. For example, that Shiva Asar B'Tammuz was the start, right? Because we didn't have the protection of the wall. It planted the seeds to what happened later, but nothing actually happened on that day apart from the wall being breached, right? Even Tisha B'Av itself, it was Lamaisa. It started already the day before, so and it continued. So even on Tisha B'Av, it's not that day, it's before, it's after, whatever, different shitas, right? So in Gedalia, once again, right, it took time for Klal Yisrael to leave Eretz Yisrael after Gedalia was killed. So nothing, if you look at the other Tanesim, happened on that day. Where it happens over here by Asara B'Teves, Klal Yisrael lost our independence, we lost our ability to protect ourselves. It all started and it happened on Asara B'Teves, which is why, Pashtus, we would have to fast if it fell on Shabbos. And of course, we have one last famous answer. and that is the Heilige Chassam Sofer. And this, Rabbi Isai, is something to think about when it comes to tomorrow, and we'll be fasting. Whenever you're up at any time during the day, think about this Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer says, what is the pshat? Why, if Asara B'Teves would fall on Shabbos, we would actually not push it off like Tisha B'Av, but we would actually fast on Shabbos. So the Chassam Sofer, there's a very big difference. He says that with other Tanesim, we're kind of remembering what happened. We're trying to be ma'oreh within ourselves, what's going on. Avada, we have to do tshuva, see where Klal Yisrael are holding. But there's something very special about Asara B'Teves. And that's why we cannot push it off. So the Heilige Chassam Sofer, on Asara B'Teves, the Beis Din Shalmala are sitting, and they are deciding how much longer is the Golus going to be. When is Mashiach going to come? When is the Beis HaMikdash going to come down? And therefore, Zut the Heilige Chassam Sofer, we cannot say that if it falls on Shabbos, Beseder will push it to Sunday. You're missing the opportunity. Because on Asara B'Teves, the Beis Din Shalmala are sitting, and they are deciding how long is the Golus going to be here. And that's an opportunity that we have to chap when we have Asara B'Teves. We don't have to look far, especially here. We're living in Eretz Yisrael, we're living in Yerushalayim HaKodesh. We don't have to look far at the tzoros that so many Yidden are going through. So many Yidden are going through tzoros that they've lost nebuch, a loved one, a relative, a friend, a family member, a neighbor, a cousin. Everyone knows someone that lost someone. Or if they haven't lost someone that's a family that's waiting for one of their loved ones who have been kidnapped to come back. Or someone that's sending their child into the army, and therefore they're waiting with stress and sorrow. Are they going to be healthy? Are they going to be okay? Right? Living in fear of so many Yidden and Klal Yisrael around the world, not only in Eretz Yisrael. We feel it, we know it. We have an opportunity, every single one of us, on Asara B'Teves, to beg the Rabbeinu Shalom for Rachmanis. To beg the Rabbeinu Shalom, it's enough. We've done enough. We've waited enough time. It's finished. Bring the Geula. It's enough. We cannot be in this Golus anymore. We cannot be in this bitter long Golus. It's enough time. The Beis Din Shalmala Rabbi say are sitting tomorrow, and they're going to be deciding, when is Mashiach coming? When is this Golus going to be over? We have an obligation to daven. We have an obligation to beg the Rabbeinu Shalom for Rachmanis, for Mashiach, for the Geula. And we could do this. If we believe in our tefillas, and we believe in the koyach HaTefillah, then we could do this. That's why Asara B'Teves is so important, and that's why, according to the Abu Dram, if it would fall on Shabbos, then Avada, we would fast on Shabbos Kodesh, because it's so choshev to chap Asara B'Teves. Just move on for a minute. This year we have a unique year, hasn't been for a while. It's actually going to be in 2 more years again as well. But Akaponim, we have Asara B'Teves Shechal Yos Be'erev Shabbos Kodesh, which means it falls on Friday. Very unusual. We generally do not like, the Torah brings this down, we don't like to come into Shabbos fasting. It's not something that's lechatchila for us. To walk into Shabbos fasting is not something lechatchila. However, it's Asara B'Teves, we have to chap, and therefore we fast the entire day, and we break the fast by Kiddush. Most people will daven a little bit earlier, Mincha and Kabbalah Shabbos a little bit earlier, so that they can get to their meals, and they can make Kiddush as early as possible. But the fast breaks when you make Kiddush. This fast also has slight differences. It's be'etzim the same. For example, I'll give you a couple of differences. There's halacha, according to Ashkenazim, that we do not have a hot shower on a tainis. We don't have a hot shower on a tainis. Now, obviously, the covered Shabbos Kodesh, and Avad, you're allowed to have a regular hot shower. That is not a problem. Music, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says, should not be listened to on any fast that is connected to Churban Beis HaMikdash. There's no reason that shouldn't apply this year as well. The only other difference, of course, is Mincha. We're not going to say Avinu Malkeinu and Tachnan because it's Erev Shabbos, but otherwise on a regular Mincha we would. Akaponim Shachris is a regular Shachris. The fast is a regular fast. That means that it comes in by Alois. So if you go to sleep tonight and you wake up in the middle of the night, you look at your watch, you know Alois is whatever. I'm not saying it is, but let's say 4:30, right? You wake up at 3:45. You're like, oh great, it's way before Alois. Let me chap a quick bowl of cereal and a coffee. I'll go back to sleep. I'll be able to have something. So the halacha is that if you go to sleep for a proper sleep tonight and you wake up in the morning, your fast has already started. So even if you didn't say anything, your fast has begun even though it's before Alois. The exception for that is 2 things. Number 1, drinking. If you wake up at 3:45 and you're before Alois, whenever Alois is, so then you could drink even if you don't say anything, because it's like a normal thing for a person to drink. And the other thing is what we should try to do is before you go to sleep tonight, make it Tanai. And your Tanai is, I'm not being makabel the fast when I go to sleep. And this way, if you wake up in the night and you want to eat something, then you have no problem. But if you do not do that tonight, then you have a problem. Again, Rabbi said, let's remember, the ikar of the tainus is not the fasting. Avada we have to fast. But the ikar of the tainus is the tshuva, is to look into our deeds and see what can we do better? How can we get closer to Rabbi Shalom? What can we do to bring the gula? We should be zoicha be'ez Hashem that there shouldn't be a fast. We should be zoicha never to have another Asara B'Teves on a Friday or any other that day be'ez Hashem. We should be zoicha to be dancing before Shabbos Kodesh together with the binyan by Shlishi b'mheira v'yameinu. Amen.